Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And I'm going to say this qualifies as fitness news. It's a massive international mainstream news story, and we get these cases all the time. I'll probably link a copy of it down in the comments somewhere, a link to one of the news stories on it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I'm going to assume most of you have seen it. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And, this is one of these things when you see a story like this that makes me have to look at people and go, okay, stop doing your silly, I did my research on your fad diet before you start throwing children on these diets, all right? Let's be realistic here. Every single person out there who is following any diet that eliminates whole food groups, you are doing a fad diet. And it's not smart, it's not wise, you're choosing to do it for whatever reasons, that's fine. But you need to understand that because you're making that choice, don't subject your growing children to your silly ass moronic philosophy, because it can hurt them. And this is a perfect example. Because you did your research. All right, no, you watched some silly documentaries and read a couple of very biased books. You didn't do your research. We have a couple, and I believe they were in Australia, vegan couple, they have a child who had multiple dietary deficiencies, only weighed 19 pounds at like a year and a half old. Terrible, terrible story. And they are being charged with a crime for this. They're being charged with neglect. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. And, I linked it on my fan page. And what response did it get from people? Well, it's not that hard to give your child a good vegan. Yeah, it actually is. It actually is. And what do you find most vegan parents who are smart do? I'll give you a perfect example. A few years ago, ex of mine, we were visiting some of her really close friends, lifelong friends, and they were a married couple, and they were vegans. And I watched their toddler, their 3-year-old, was eating cheese. Why? Because they really did do their research. They chose to be vegans for ethical reasons, right? They had their own ethical reasons for it. And if that's what you choose to do, I can respect that. I think it's a distorted worldview. I think it's an eating disorder in its own right. I agree with Margaret Bateau on that. But you choose to do that for your own worldview. You know what? That's your right as a grown adult to make your own moral and ethical choices like that. And I wouldn't take your choice to do that away. And just like those parents, they have a right to make that choice. You choose that lifestyle, hey, that's your choice. They were wise enough to know that the research actually shows that no, vegan diets for growing children are not a good idea. They're really not. And anyone telling you that they are is extremely biased. Yes, it's very difficult to get them what they need. In fact, children thrive on dairy. And everyone's complaints, every single concern that people have about dairy, even though most registered dietitians agree that dairy is amazing, it's practically a superfood. Every single health concern that people have about dairy doesn't exist for children, right? It doesn't exist for children. Children tend to be able to handle lactose unless they're lactose intolerant, in which case still yogurt and cheese work, all right? Everyone's concerned, well, a big section of the population is lactose intolerant. Is adults, not infants. Human milk has lactose. We're mammals. They do just fine on it. Well, there could be a lot of saturated fat in a lot of it. Children don't have heart attacks. 3-year-olds are not going to be able to consume enough saturated fat that is going to affect their lipid profiles and put them at risk of cardiovascular disease, right? That goes away. That's gone. Dietary deficiencies will hurt your children more than anything else in their growth. And children need a lot of protein. They need fat. They need these things. All these things that people are concerned about, children need them. Children need carbs. They need a lot of fat. They need protein. They need vitamin B3, calcium, B12. And supplementing this stuff is not the best solution to do that. Your best solution to do that is to give your children good tasting food so that they will eat. And people say, well, what about childhood obesity? Well, don't feed your children McDonald's, all right? Children are not getting obese from eating single ingredient foods. And I don't care whether we're talking about fruit, oh no, the sugar, dairy, or meat, oh no, the fat, right? All this stuff. That is not what's making children obese. It's McDonald's. It's combining double bacon cheeseburgers, French fries, and sodas together and giving it to your children. Right? It's eating highly refined, hyper-palatable, calorically dense junk food. Children are not getting obese from drinking milk or eating fruit or any of that. You're not seeing obese toddlers as a result of that. That's not what's causing it. No registered dietitian or expert in the world thinks that that's the cause of it. It's the junk food. It's McDonald's. It's soda. Giving your children a giant bowl of ice cream and candy bars every single day, 3 times a day, that's what's causing children to be obese. That's why we have a childhood obesity epidemic also now. It has nothing to do with these other foods. So if you're going to follow a ketogenic diet or a vegan diet or anything else, don't put your children on these silly ass restrictive diets. If you do, you're a bad parent. If you do, you're possibly guilty of child neglect. If you do, you're hurting your child. Because you might come and find out later, you realize the diet's not so great. Most people don't stick to these things for life. Surveys show that vegans, 88% of vegans, 88% in surveys of people who were real vegans. People say, well, they weren't real vegans. They throw that no true Scotsman argument. No, I'm talking about when they interview people who had a legitimate vegan lifestyle for a year or longer, or for long term, who took it very seriously, 88% of them quit. And they walk away from it and they go back to eating meat and stuff, right? Ketogenic diet, the keto-tards, the people who follow the ketogenic lifestyle, right? How many of them stick it out? Eventually they all quit. And for the record, most people who follow the ketogenic lifestyle are still obese. By the way, they're still fat. People don't follow these diets for life. They pretend that they do. They want to pretend that they do. They claim that they do. And there's a tiny segment of people who do. Majority are not. So you start putting your children on these silly ass diets, and then what happens? You realize 5 or 10 years down the road when you quit doing it. Then you might feel pretty stupid. Then you have a child who has later health problems later in life. Maybe they're not as smart as they could have been. Maybe they're not as tall as they could have been. Maybe they have some damage to their body as a result of it. Then how are you going to feel about it? Well, you probably won't think about it at all. You know, follow the silly fad diet for 10 years, you probably don't think about it. But you guys see the point I'm making here. Children do not need restrictive diets. Children need to be given large quantities of whole foods, and that includes dairy, meat, fruit. There you go for your keto followers. Fruit, dairy for you vegans. They need these things. They're growing children. You're not going to hurt your children by giving them whole foods, large amounts of single ingredient and nutritious foods. That's not the problem. That's not your concerns. If you care about your children's health, they don't need a food avoidance diet. Just stop giving them junk food. Don't give them candy bars. Don't give them ice cream. Don't give them soda if you're worried about their health. But restricting whole foods like that because you have some moral or weird obligation about it, you're hurting your children. And I don't care what morality you think you have, that you think you're morally superior or something, or woke because of some diet you do. You're a terrible person the moment you put your children on that diet. You're a terrible person. And I legitimately believe that. And again, I've known vegans who believe that, so I don't want to hear from the vegan community, well, you're wrong. No, I've known vegans who were very, very, very serious lifelong vegans who still were giving their infant cheese because they realized and said that we know that our child will be healthier if they get dairy and stuff early on. We'll try to ease them into this lifestyle later in life. See the difference? All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.